Well, here is President Biden's exact words about Trump supporters, half the country, during a Zoom call last night.
And just the other day, a speaker at his rally called Puerto Rico a floating island of garbage. Well, let me tell you something. I don't know the Puerto Rican that I know, or Puerto Rico where I'm in my home state of Delaware. They're good, decent, honorable people. The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters. His demonization of seen as unconscionable, and it's un-American. It's totally contrary to everything we've done.
Now, the White House says there was meant to be an apostrophe there, as if that just fixes everything you just heard. And Biden, too, tried to clarify his insult of millions of Americans. He posted this on social media very quickly after. Earlier today, I referred to the hateful rhetoric about Puerto Rico spewed by Trump's supporter at his Madison Square Garden rally as garbage, which is the only word I can think of to describe it. His demonization of Latinos is unconscionable. That's all I meant to say. The comments at the rally don't reflect who we are as a nation. But it was radio silence from the Harris campaign until earlier this morning when the vice president finally weighed in.
President Biden put his comment last night about garbage.
Listen, I think that, first of all, he clarified his comments, but let me be clear, I strongly disagree with any criticism of people based on who they vote for.
You've spoken to him about his comments and his intentions?
He did call me last night, but this didn't come up.
Do you sympathise with any voters who do feel offended by or insulted by the garbage comments?
As I have said and will repeat over and over again, I am sincere in what I mean. When elected President of the United States, I will represent all Americans, including those who don't vote for me, and address their needs and their desires.
So let's start by clearing this up. Biden, who proclaimed unity, 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 unity in his inaugural address, says he would never demonize half the country. But let's go through the last 4 years when he has done just that repeatedly.
The last thing we need is the Neanderthal thinking that in the meantime, everything's fine, take off your mask, forget it. It still matters. For the vast majority of you who've gotten vaccinated, I understand your anger at those who haven't gotten vaccinated. Do you want to be the side of Dr. King or George Wallace? Do you want to be the side of John Lewis or Bull Connor? Do you want to be the side of Abraham Lincoln or Jefferson Davis? That's why respected conservatives like Federal Circuit Court Judge Michael Ludwig has called Trump and the extreme MAGA Republicans, quote, a clear and present danger to our democracy. Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans represent an extremism that threatens the very foundations of our republic.
So Republicans are Neanderthals. Republicans have been compared to segregationists. Republicans have been called a clear and present danger, all in various contexts. But he would never do that. And the question is, has Kamala stood up to him each and every one of those times he has incited division?
But the clip is important because, again, it was Kamala, all Democrats, Joe Biden, that talk about extreme MAGA Republicans. What that is if you're a Donald Trump supporter, right, they've demonized them. And Donald Trump always says in the campaign trail, they're not coming for me, they're actually coming for you. I'm just in their way. And you see right here, that's actually true. They hate half of America because they hate their values, because they're trying to make a power play to change this country, fundamentally transform it. Here's the problem, though. We're talking about a very slim part of America that may be undecided, that is persuadable as we're 6 days away from the election. This language doesn't work at all to win them over. And if you think about the campaigns, the polls are all over. It's tight. But I spend a lot of time on campaigns, and the campaigns that are winning, they're having fun, they're dancing, they're laughing, they truly are joyful. The campaigns that are losing, they're backfighting, they're demonizing their opponent. They're in essence trying to claw at anything to get ahead. And so I look at this, and it is a sign of a struggling campaign, which is not good for Kamala Harris.
So the media 48 hours ago had a serious problem with the term garbage when a comedian used it as a warm-up act for a Trump rally. Let's go back, recent memory.
The most repulsive racial jokes about Latinos.
Disgusting and hateful.
So incredibly crude.
Frankly, just too X-rated to play here.
You know, Harris, so they had a problem with garbage then. I am not hearing vociferous denunciations of Biden today.
I'm not hearing any. I mean, you know, she's outside on the tarmac, almost unintelligible with the sound of the engines going behind her. So, I mean, I think Kellyanne Conway and others have mentioned this. If you want that message to be clear, that you step away and are separate from Joe Biden and his incendiary remarks about Trump supporters, then you make it clear, and you make it clear in a place where you can be heard. You don't do the also ran of, well, if they get to that question, be ready for it, as you run across the tarmac. Look, all of this is a fix to something that can't be fixed because it's baked in. We've been hearing Tim Walz, the vice presidential candidate that she chose, talk about Trump supporters as Nazis. And then how rich was it that the vice presidential candidate that she didn't choose from the all-important state of Pennsylvania, Josh Shapiro, governor in that state, was one of the first to say, and maybe it was vociferously, no way should anybody be calling anybody supporters that. And he completely backed away from what Biden said. Mm-hmm. Maybe she, again chose the wrong guy, but maybe they chose the wrong path. And they chose it 3.5 years ago because they've been talking about Trump for a long time.
They have been. Look, Emily, there's a question that must be asked. And I think it's fair at this point because there have been a ton of data points on this. So let me begin here. Kamala yesterday called for unity in her closing argument, widely touted speech in front of the ellipse. She said, all of those who disagree are welcome at my table. They're neighbors, they're friends. I'm paraphrasing her here. And then Biden comes out with the garbage comment. Okay, now this comes after, days after we learned from Axios this. President Biden wants to campaign for Vice President Harris in the last days before the election. Harris's campaign keeps responding, we'll get back to you. It's according to 3 people familiar. They believe Biden's a political liability at a crucial time. Okay, so we remember when Biden put on the MAGA hat, raised some of our eyebrows. Then we remember Biden campaigning in Pittsburgh. The White House says they didn't know about that. Then this latest comment. Then there was the comment that he made about jailing President Trump.
I know this sounds bizarre. It sounds like if I said this 5 years ago, you'd lock me up. We got to lock him up. Political lock him up. Lock him out. That's what we have to do.
Now, Emily, the question is this intentional? And look, we have nothing to suggest it is, but when you have all of these misstatements, either he is just not on message or there's something more.
And I think to your point, look, I don't think we're ever going to know the true answer, but the question is the most important point. Mm-hmm. And the two answers are either sort of an intentional dismantling of the efficacy of Kamala Harris's campaign right now, or a pushback in general, an anger at being rebuffed, an anger at being removed. And frankly, that's the Joe Biden we've seen for years. We've seen a lashing out, a stubborn, a sort of, retribution-holding individual. So I'm not surprised at all. And I think the reality is that the Harris campaign is trying to contain a human that isn't going to be contained because he still has the microphone, because he's still the president. And you're absolutely right that it's a little too late for Kamala Harris to come out and call for unity when all of her actions, all of her behavior, all of her rhetoric has said otherwise. And we saw that, I think, for someone that has wanted voters to believe for now years that she fought so hard and she fought so clearly during her different positions for you, America, for you, victims and the like. We didn't see that same firm aggression when she was denouncing anti-Semitic rhetoric. We didn't see that same firmness when she was denouncing Hamas. There was a million opportunities for her to come out with that same fire that we were told she has as a prosecutor. And so here it falls so flat. She's trying to distance herself from the president, but on the tarmac, across from the engines, I think it's because she feels safe to do so, because she knows no matter what, in a couple weeks, they're not going to have to work together.
Cheryl, there are moments that are big political moments, and the Trump campaign clearly thought this was such. And the reason I know that is I remember when news would break during Trump rallies. One time they sent me down in the audience with a sign and held it up for Trump to read what the breaking news was. And last night, the campaign clearly did the same. They sent a piece of paper out to him via Marco Rubio, and watch what happened.
You may not have heard this. Just moments ago, Joe Biden stated that our supporters are garbage. Are garbage.
Wow.
That's terrible. That's what it says. So you have, remember Hillary, she said deplorable? And then she said irredeemable, right? But she said deplorable. That didn't work out. Garbage, I think, is worse, right? But he doesn't know. You have to please forgive him. Please forgive him, for he not knoweth what he said.
Pretty funny.
Well, and you brought up the deplorable comment. Was this their deplorable moment, do you think, for the Harris campaign? That's the biggest question. You brought that up earlier with just 6 days to go. Maybe not. But remember, this was, I'm going to give you the date, September 9th, 2016, when Hillary Clinton went out there and said that it was her deplorable speech. It was a basket of deplorables, and that offended half the country. And she lost. But there was more in that speech, and I think that a lot of folks remember that to their core because it was wounding. She also said that Trump supporters were racist, sexist, homophobic, Islamophobic. It was a big speech. And so I think, look, it is Harris, it's not Biden, let's be clear. He's been confused before, and I'm being polite. Was that another moment? I don't think the White House communications team did a good job of cleaning it up. And plus, in this age of viral video, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, etc., those comments were out there.
But if you have
that
somebody
garbage comment was all over there.
In your constellation who hates half the country, and you have made it your point throughout your campaign up until like 4 days ago to say that we are simpatico on everything, every major decision. I'm always the last person in the room. He said it too. Then if you have that much hate in the room, you're going to convince anybody that you wouldn't stand up to that if it really bothered you. You're going to wait to a loud tarmac moment to say, I'm not like this guy? Come on, they're practiced at this. And they're not just practiced at insulting people, they're practicing at words that really signify hate. I mean, garbage is worse than deplorable.
Yeah.
It is. And look, the comedian who, I mean, I only knew him from roasting Tom Brady. I didn't think anything he said was funny that night. I don't even know, where this guy came from. That's how bad he was, but he was great at the roast. It's like, oh, are they even the same people? But he's not running for president. More importantly, this came from the actual president.
Great. Yeah. There are certain huge moments in political campaigns, and the deplorable moment was one. To your point, I remember where I was walking through Charlotte Airport. And I will always remember where I was when half the country was called garbage.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kayleigh McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.